Hello everyone, welcome back to the lecture series on magnetism in condensed matter physics. In the previous video, we have talked about exchange interactions and their origin. Now in this video, we will talk about the types of exchange interactions. Before that, let's try to recap what we have discussed in the previous video. So in the previous video, we have seen that the exchange interaction is a quantum mechanical concept and it has an electrostatic nature. The origin of exchange interaction was from Pauli's exclusion principle and from the fact that electrons are indistinguishable particles. Now, this exchange interaction is very subtle and mysterious effect. Here, according to Pauli's exclusion principle, the total wave function must be antisymmetric. Now, as the total wave function is made up of spatial and spin wave function, both of which can be symmetric and antisymmetric. If the spin wave function is symmetric, then this corresponds to s equal to 1, and if it is antisymmetric, then that corresponds to s equal to 0. Here, the wave function for singlet state is given by psi s, and the wave function for triplet state is given by psi t. So for singlet state s equal to 0, the expectation value of s1 dot s2 was minus 3 by 4. For s equal to 1, the expectation value of s1 dot s2 is equal to 1 by 4. Using this, we have written the effective Hamiltonian as the summation of a constant term and a spin-dependent term. So therefore, finally we got the spin-dependent Hamiltonian as minus 2j s1 dot s2. Here j is the exchange integral and its value can be positive if the triplet state is favored, and this corresponds to ferromagnetic ordering. Also, its value can be negative when the singlet state is favored, and this corresponds to antiferromagnetic ordering. So this much we have discussed it in the previous video. Now let's move forward. Before moving forward, I must tell you the fact that there are only 5 elemental ferromagnets, which are iron, cobalt, nickel, gadolinium, and dysprosium. The first 3 are transition elements in which the free electron is in the 3D shell, while the remaining 2 are rare earth elements with 4f configuration, with the electronic configuration as shown here. Now here among these 2 rare earth elements, Curie temperature for the gadolinium is about 20 degrees Celsius, while the Tc for dysprosium is very low and it is about 88 Kelvin. So therefore in nature we only have these 5 elemental ferromagnets, and the reason for that is closely related with their electronic configuration. Now the exchange integral J, which is a measure of the magnetic interaction strength, is a function of the ratio of the interatomic distance to the radius of the unfilled 3D electron shell, and the relationship is shown by the Bethe-Slater curve, as shown here. This explains why certain transition metals are ferromagnets while others are antiferromagnets. Here you can see that for some elements the value of J is positive, while for others the value of J is negative. So like for iron, nickel and cobalt, the value of J is positive. So here the moments in the neighboring ions will be ferromagnetically aligned, while in the case of manganese, the spins are antiferromagnetically aligned. Now as you can see in this graph, the value of J for nickel is greater than that of iron, and the value of J for iron is greater than cobalt. A similar trend is also seen in their Curie temperature behavior also. Now in the previous video, we have introduced the concept of bonding and antibonding orbitals also. So in this video, let's talk in detail about them. For that, we will take a simpler example of hydrogen molecule. Consider 2 free hydrogen atoms with 1 electron each in their 1s orbital, so that the electronic distribution will be a spherically symmetric distribution as shown in here. Now if these 2 free atoms they come closer, then they form 2 molecular orbitals as sigma 1s and sigma star 1s. Now in order to save kinetic energy, both these electrons will go into the bonding orbital given by sigma 1s, which is corresponding to the singlet state. Now according to Pauli's exclusion principle, If two electrons share same orbital, they must have the opposite spin. So therefore, these two electrons will come closer by aligning antiparallel to each other in the bonding orbital, while the antibonding orbital is empty. Here you can see the electronic distribution in the bonding orbital when these two orbitals come closer and forms a bigger box of length greater than the previous one. So as we have discussed it earlier also, if you consider this if you consider this electron as a particle in a box, so it can save its kinetic energy by making a molecular orbit with a larger dimension. So therefore these two electrons are delocalized to save the kinetic energy by making bonding orbital. The electronic distribution for antibonding orbital looks like this, where there is a node in between. So this implies that the electrons have parallel spins, but they try to avoid each other because of the Coulomb interaction. Now, if you want to understand the exchange interaction concept, you must remember the fact from this particular example that electron doesn't want to stay in a small region. It always wants to delocalize in order to save its kinetic energy, which is a result from the particle in a box. Now let us talk about the types of exchange interactions. The first one is direct exchange. If the electrons on neighboring magnetic atoms interact via exchange interactions, this is known as direct exchange. This is because the exchange interactions proceeds directly without the need of an intermediary. Although this seems the most obvious route for the exchange interaction to take place, but in reality the situation is very different. It is because many times direct exchange cannot be an important mechanism in controlling the magnetic properties. It is because many times there is insufficient direct overlap between the neighboring magnetic orbitals, and the direct exchange interaction requires the direct overlap between the magnetic orbitals. To understand this, let's take example of cobalt and gadolinium. Here you can see the example of gadolinium, which has the electronic configuration as. Here you can see this 4f 7 electrons are responsible for the magnetic properties. So here you can see in this case of rare earth element, the 4f electrons are strongly localized and they lie very close to the nucleus. This arrow here represents the interatomic distance, and you can see here that these 4f electrons are strongly localized and lie very close to the nucleus. So therefore, this direct exchange interaction is unlikely to be very effective in the case of rare earth elements, as the 4f shell is sufficiently well buried within the 5s and 5p shells, which are uninvolved with the chemical bonding, since 4f electrons are localized. Now if you see the example of cobalt, which is a transition element, here the 3d electrons are delocalized and are responsible for the metallic properties. Here you can see that a small fraction of 3d electrons goes beyond the interatomic distance. But still, it is extremely difficult to justify why direct exchange should lead to the observed magnetic properties in the case of cobalt, or iron or nickel. These materials are metals, which means that the role of conduction electron should not be neglected. And a correct description is needed to take account for both localized and delocalized character of electrons. So therefore, in many magnetic materials, it is necessary to consider some kind of indirect exchange interactions. So now let us consider the indirect exchange interaction in ionic solids, which is also known as superexchange. A number of ionic solids, including some oxides and fluorides, have the magnetic ground state. For example, MnO and MnF2 both are antiferromagnets. Here manganese exists in the +2 oxidation state. Here the existence of magnetic ground state is very surprising. It is because there is no direct overlap between electrons on these magnetic 2 plus ions. Also, this exchange interaction is normally very short-ranged, but the exchange interaction seen in this system was very long-ranged. So whatever be the exchange interaction in this case, it must be some sense of super. So that's why it is known as super exchange. This super exchange can be defined as the indirect exchange interaction between non-neighboring magnetic ions, which is mediated by a non-magnetic ion, which is placed in between the magnetic ions. It arises because the ability to hope gives a kinetic energy saving to the electron, as we have seen in the particle in a box concept. Now let us see how this effect gives an antiferromagnetic ordering in the case of MnO system. For simplicity, let us assume that the magnetic moment on this manganese ion is due to a single unpaired electron only. Hence, if the system is perfectly ionic, each metal ion would have a single unpaired electron in a d orbital, and the oxygen would have two p electrons in their outermost occupied state. So therefore, in the ground state, each magnesium has one single unpaired electron, and there are two p electrons in the oxygen. Now if you see here, we have assumed that the spin on the two magnetic ions to be ferromagnetic aligned in the ground state. Now, as I told you earlier also, this electron, it likes to delocalize over the crystal. So therefore, if it gets some sort of energy, it must go into excited state where this electron should be delocalized. So let's see how that could be possible. That could be possible only if this electron from this manganese ion, it goes to another manganese ion. So let's see how that could be happen. If the electron with downspin in the oxygen atom, it goes to manganese ion, then it will make up down, and here it will be up, and here it will be up. Now if you see this up in the second manganese ion, it can't go to the oxygen. So as a whole process, the electron from this manganese ion cannot jump to the oxygen because it violates the Pauli's exclusion principle. So therefore, there is no kinetic energy advantage for the electron when in the ground state the spins on the manganese ions are ferromagnetically aligned. Now let us see when the spins on the two ionic system are antiferromagnetically aligned in the ground state. So that in the excited state, this electron on each ion, it can delocalize in a way that this electron with down spin from this oxygen, it goes to this manganese, and this up spin electron from this oxygen, it goes to the another ion. So in that case, the configuration will look like, so in this case, both manganese ions have up and down electrons, which do not violate the Pauli's exclusion principle, which was earlierly violated here. So therefore, there is a kinetic energy advantage for the electron when it is in the excited state. Now there can be another possibility where this up spin electron from oxygen, it goes to manganese, and this up spin electron from manganese, second manganese ion, it comes to fill the vacancy here. So in that case, the electronic configuration will be like, there will be nothing in the first manganese ion, and then there will be down up and then down up. So as a whole process, this electron from the first manganese ion, it is jumped to second manganese ion. So therefore, there is a kinetic energy advantage for the electron in the excited state. So if that is so, these manganese ions will align themselves antiferromagnetically in the ground state, and this is known as the superexchange. Because superexchange involves the oxygen orbitals as well as the metal atom, it is a second order process and it is derived it from the second order perturbation theory. I am not going into much detail of it, but there exists a parameter known as Hoping integral which controls the transition matrix element. Now, in some circumstances, superexchange can be ferromagnetic also, but it is a very weaker interaction and less common than the usual antiferromagnetic superexchange. Now, let us talk about indirect exchange in metals. In metals, the exchange interaction between magnetic ions can be mediated by the conduction electrons. This indirect exchange couples moments over relatively large distances. It is a dominant exchange interaction in metals where there is a little or no direct overlap between neighboring magnetic electrons. This type of exchange interaction was first proposed by Ruderman and Kittel and later extended by Kasuya and Yosida to give the theory now generally known as RKKY interaction. So in rare earth metals, where the magnetic electrons in 4f shells are shielded by 5s and 5p electrons, the direct exchange is rather weak and insignificant. There, the indirect exchange via the conduction electron give rise to the magnetic ordering, as we have seen in the case of gadolinium. The localized magnetic moment spin polarizes the conduction electron. This polarization in turn couples to the neighboring localized magnetic moment at a distance r away. As we have seen that in the case of gadolinium, the 4f electrons are well shielded by 5s, 5p and 6s orbitals. So therefore there exists a localized magnetic moment due to these 4f electrons. And this is interacting with another gadolinium localized magnetic moment placed it at a distance r away. Here this localized magnetic moment it creates a spin polarization in the surrounding conduction electrons, which are on the 5p and 6s orbitals. The second spin interacts with this polarization, allowing the distant localized moments to couple. This interaction is also known as itinerant exchange interaction. The coupling takes the form of an R-dependent exchange interaction J RKKY proportional to cos 2kf R divided by R cubed at large R, where kf is the Fermi radius. This interaction is a long range and has an oscillatory dependence on the distance between the magnetic moments. Hence, depending upon the separation, it may be either ferromagnetic or antiferromagnetic. So this is it for today, and in the next video we will talk about double exchange and anisotropic exchange interactions. Then we will again come back to Heisenberg's model and we will solve it for continuum approximation. We will meet next time. Thank you so much for watching this video.